both things happened on one night. I saw it at the Donmar Warehouse in London. My wife Cheryl came with me. I'd read the play. I liked it. I thought it might make a movie, but I needed to see the play in order to understand whether I really believed in it enough to get involved in trying to get the rights. And two things were happening to me as I was watching the play. My mind was spinning and already trying to imagine what the adaptation on screen might look like. And a lot of answers were popping into my head to those questions. And more importantly, I, along with the audience that I was seeing the play with, were just so completely engaged and frankly really surprised at how engrossing and entertaining this story really was. Funny even, was suspenseful. When it was over, I knew that I wanted to make it as a movie. And I've never committed to anything so quickly in my entire career. But I was on the sidewalk that night saying, I know I can make this movie. I really want to make it. I'll commit to it.
Not the case yet.
Well, thank you. Well, that was an exciting part of the challenge, and you never really know, what the outcome of a movie is going to be. It's a very fragile medium, and so it's always a bit of a high wire act, I suppose, of sorts. But I felt that by drawing the audience into these characters and their lives, and not just Frost Nixon, but also the supporting characters who are really interesting and colorful and fascinating in their own way. This could be very, very emotional, very suspenseful, and very cinematic. I also wanted to go for a very naturalistic style, the sort of the opposite of the formality that you get in watching a tightly rehearsed play. I wanted it to feel like, in a way, the audience was discovering it along with the actors. I think it was the blend of really unique, unexpected characters in conflict who are both, they're funny, they're smart, there's not a good guy and a bad guy, they're both flawed, but they also have real virtues, so they're complicated characters. And blended with a look at that moment in time and that event, and yet with no political axe to grind. In other words, it's not dogmatic. It's not trying to sell a particular idea. It's trusting the audience to remember, observe, discover, and then think for themselves, and yet be very entertained. And I just think it's a very rare combination. It was clear from the beginning to me that they'd be excellent in the movie. I wasn't 100% sure that they would play the roles, and I wanted to explore all the options. Quickly, The Queen came out and was such a success, and Michael Sheen was so wonderful in that the studio was very satisfied, as was I, that you weren't going to find a better David Frost. I suspected you wouldn't find a better Richard Nixon than Frank Langella either. But we kept looking, and the studio was very interested in trying to get a big box office star for that, if it was possible. But as time went on, I think Frank kept putting his stamp on this character more and more, and I really felt that audiences ought to get the benefit of what this great actor had to offer through this role. And eventually the studio came around to that as well. They were great to work with, and of course they had this great chemistry through having done the play. They, interestingly, very friendly to one another, get along great, but they didn't spend much time together because they didn't want to have a comfortable, chit-chatty, off-the-set rapport going. They kept a little tension in it, mostly just by keeping their distance. I thought that was very, very helpful. I followed up on that by having no rehearsals. I didn't want anything to feel overly planned or prepared. I wanted it to be as spontaneous as it possibly could. Given that these guys had performed this a number of times, I wanted to inject as much of the unexpected into the actual shooting of it as I could. The story is so rich and interesting, and the writing is so good that it turned out to be a pretty easy thing to put together one of the best ensemble casts I've ever been involved with. You know, Kevin Bacon, Sam Rockwell, Oliver Platt, Matthew McFadden, Rebecca Hall, Toby Jones. These are remarkable actors, and we did continue to flesh out their characters. Peter Morgan was interested in this idea. It was very important to me. And where things didn't get written, I created a freedom among the cast members to try to improvise and just fully explore their characters, so that, you know, beyond even Frost and Nixon, we had rich, interesting, you know, cool characters to watch. Well, yeah, David Frost, you know, he lived and lives a very dynamic and colorful life, and it was great to actually be filming at the Cinerama Dome on Hollywood Boulevard, or in the restaurant where he was having a birthday party with, you know, Hugh Hefner and the Playgirls, and Neil Diamond singing to him and things like that. You know, that was terrific, and we actually filmed at the real Casa Pacifica, which was chilling for all of us. Casa Pacifica is where Nixon lived when he was president and for a few years afterward, in California, and we were, after a long process, eventually given permission to shoot a few days there, and it was, you know, I think it meant a lot to all of us to actually be treading on, you know, on the ground where, you know, a lot of this had really happened. Great acting, great drama, a rich characterization. You know, they always say the very best drama is a powerful protagonist and a powerful antagonist locked in sort of mortal combat. And this had that. That's what Peter Morgan discovered in this story. And it goes so far beyond the interviews. It delves into their personal lives and what this moment in their lives really meant to them. And for them, the guys with those intellects, that degree of pride, it really was a life-death struggle. Oh, I would not have done a better job than David Frost. He was pretty remarkable, and even though he had his doubters, not only in the press, not only in society, even among his own team members and researchers, they wondered whether he could really seal the deal. Could he close out on this interview in a way that was impactful and meaningful? And even they were shocked this one crucial final day when he changed the order of the questions. He had his own notes, he had his own ideas, going even beyond what the researchers had given him. And, without a doubt, surprised a lot of people and did something remarkable. Well, it was crucial. This is Peter Morgan's idea, and he nurtured it for years, and he has incredible insight into people. These characters, but in the world around him, what he sees and understands about what's going on is really remarkable. He's an incredibly talented man. He's funny and a brilliant writer, and it really was a pleasure. It was a great collaboration, and I hope we get to do more work together. Well, I guess the biggest thematic point in my mind is that in a democracy, the truth is more than a good idea. It's something really worth fighting for. And that, to me, the irony is that as the media more and more becomes an industry, and with a bottom line and a need to reach audiences, it's imperative that it never forget that it has this job in our democracy, which is to try to get at the truth for us. Entertain, sure. Get us general information, great. But it's got to do that other thing. It's got to be in a position to challenge the world leaders.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care. Nice talking.